Welcome to Time Out with PSOA for Great Plains Athletic Conference training tape number 8. All right, we have Monty Tilsner back from beautiful Oregon, USA, with us this week again. Monty, what is the big takeaway from your experience last weekend?
Yeah, I think probably the best part for us was, 2 versus 3, great game, went down to the last play. And the best thing is, there's not hardly any talk about the officiating. So that's always what you want to come out of a game like that with.
And I will say, officials, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And these are the training tapes that are going to help you be prepared when you do get the opportunity. So, congratulations, Monty. We love watching you there.
Thanks.
All right. Play number 1. We have potential roughing the passer, potential targeting, and potential block below the waist. A lot of stuff happening on this play. Let's talk about the thresholds, philosophies, and what we would like called here in the Great Plains. Halfback pass, a slip and a fall with a block initiated below the waist. A new passer contacted, and then a touchdown pass. So, Monty, as we go through this play, explain what you saw in this play the first time you saw it.
Yeah, so it's real interesting when that guy goes down to the ground, really what you're thinking mostly is maybe like a leg whip, but he actually goes up and does block this guy low. Um, and so that would be a foul because at that point he can't legally block him low. Um, so that's an interesting one, something you don't see very often. And then I believe what they call roughing the passer with targeting.
So, they called that the flag was thrown for unnecessary roughness against a defenseless player. And then the coach wanted a review for targeting.
Okay, yeah. So we to confirm targeting, we need to confirm all aspects of targeting, and one of those is that indicator. And we don't have an indicator here. The indicators are a launch, a crouch, and forceful contact with the crown, or leading with the shoulder, forearm, hand, or elbow, to the head or neck area. And I really think the forceful contact is to the chest and maybe kind of some face mask to face mask contact, which is not the forcible part of that contact. So I just don't think we have an indicator there to have targeting. But if they called unnecessary roughness, that's something you cannot pick up. So that flag would have to stay down. Even if you look at it after the fact and you're like, I wish I hadn't done that, you can't do anything about that. So,
Yeah, I will say this. If we would have had to rule this play with video, we would only have illegal block below the waist on this play. Even though we do have contact on the passer, this would not be considered high hit. It's chest to chest. And we're going to have a couple more plays here when we talk about the write up and quick ref. Officials, you have to understand the importance of the write up here, as if we are going to support a foul call or no call or an incorrect call. Take pride in your write ups. That way, the players, coaches, and graders have the information of what you saw. The better the write up, the more we could support you. All right, play number 2. And this goes into the write up of what did the offense do to simulate the snap, because that is all that was put into quick ref. So, Monty, as we're playing through this, talk about what the officials could have put in quick ref to support a foul versus just simulating the snap, so these players and coaches can understand why it's a foul to prevent fouls the rest of the season.
yeah. So I always go into quick ref to see, what they put in there for these plays that we're going to discuss. And that's all they put was simulated the snap. So I'm like looking, what am I seeing here? I don't see any movement by the center. but then I saw his offhand, and it looks like he quickly is clinching it, and that is something that centers will do, and it's taught, but or they do it on their own, but one way or another, and they're trying to get the defense to encroach. So um, if you look carefully, it looks like he is doing that. So the point is, if that's what you called, then you need to add that to the simulated the start of the play by clinching his fist rapidly, you know, and then I think that would be supported. But the write up just saying simulated snap, if that's not what he was doing, then he didn't do anything else. So yeah, the write up is very important.
Now, I will say this, I don't see an action minus the clinching of the left hand
I agree. Yeah.
that would cause a true defensive reaction. Officials, don't be fooled by the defense just reacting to movement. If it's truly a specific movement with that left hand during the cadence, so that we're clapping the hands when that clinch is going, they're saying hike or go when that clinch of the hand is going. Now we could support a foul.
Yeah, because we know linemen can move their hands. They can point out their
Yep.
blocking assignments. They'll do that. They'll point out a blocking assignment and their hand will cross the neutral zone. And we know that's not a foul.
Yep.
And nobody, coaches understand that as well. But yeah, if they're doing that quick clenching of the fist, that is to simulate the snap to try to get the encroachment, and that's why it's a foul.
Yep. So now the next two plays are examples of true simulating the snap and causing a reaction. So we have the right tackle coming out of his stance, lifting up his hands, and a defense pointing and moving forward. So that
Yeah,
is
that's definitely enough.
simulating a snap, correctly called false start.
Oh, I want to talk about one thing on this from the official's perspective on this one and the next one, which is they're both fouls. We have two flags. We have a flag by our umpire and we have a flag by our wings. And if we have two flags, officials, we cannot give a preliminary signal because we don't know that we're going to have the same foul. So don't you gotta recognize there's a second flag and then come together and just communicate and then give your report to the officials.
And so on this one, the clip starts really quick, but we have multiple offensive players starting the play without the snapper snapping the ball. All right. So again, multiple flags, slow down before that preliminary signal, but this is clearly a false start simulating the snap prior to that ball being snapped. All right. Great play to talk about, and judgment and potential of what could have been judged, and it would have been supported if judged flagrant. So as we're playing through this, we first now have a face mask measure on the ball carrier, correctly ruled, but then we talk about presence matters. All right, and when we talk about presence matters, we have these two players get hooked up and engaged. And the defense is allowed to throw the offensive player off of them, but we now have to have presence. We might have a reaction, and we do have a reaction right here. So, Monty, you said you had a couple plays of UNR, UNS potentially flagrant. If you could talk about sort of what you're looking for to separate UNR, UNS, and flagrant.
Yeah, so first of all, the UNR's got to be something right around the football, like it's part of the tackle or something like that. This is away from the ball. This is a separate act. This is what we call a non-football act. I mean, he picks this guy up and he slams him down, and so 100% should be is a foul, but it should be 100% a UNS. This we want to counter on this guy for being ejected if he would have another UNS foul. So 72 with what he does, that's a UNS. And what Sean says is, because I made the comment, I'm like, I think I would consider an ejection here. And he said if they would have done that, it would be supported, which is good because this is not a football play. And he picks this guy up, and that's a foul every time. If it's a runner, we had one. In fact, it was on our training tape this week with Carollo, where they picked up a runner off of his feet and drove him into the ground, and it was a foul. That was a UNR because it was on a tackle, which is what you do, tackle the runner. This one is not the runner. That's what changes it from a UNR to UNS. But we don't you don't teach tackling like this. You don't body slam people, so it's a foul 100% of the time.
All right, so officials understand presence does matter. I'm not saying it would have prevented that body slam, but it could have prevented that body slam. Coaches and players listening to the video, if this was deemed flagrant, it would have been supported by the conference. Do not put the officials and the conference in a position to make that judgment. This is a good review one for sliding ball carrier, defenseless player, potential targeting, and we'll talk about the timing aspect of this sliding ball carrier and when the defender actually committed to make a tackle on the ball carrier short of the line to gain. So as the quarterback advances the ball, he decides he's going to become a sliding ball carrier, but it was after the point where the defender had already committed to tackle and contact this ball carrier.
Yeah, right? That's a great point to freeze it.
Yep.
Right there, you can see he's almost making contact, and the slide has not started yet. Okay, so we can't, we can't deem this as being late. But remember, when the quarterback, as soon as his butt starts to drop, is when two things occur. One, the ball's dead at that point as far as progress. Okay, the instant the butt starts to drop is when the ball's dead for progress. In other words, he's definitely short by probably a yard, probably more than a yard and a half of this first down. But also with that ball being dead, unless that player's already committed and he's too close there, you can't say that that's on that defender anymore. But we can't have a fumble. And the crew did a great job of I think not calling this a fumble. They called it a dead ball foul, I believe. But one way or another, the defense is not going to get this ball if we have a foul.
And then just a reminder, had this been a sliding ball carrier and defenseless, we do not have crown of the helmet, and the contact is shoulder to shoulder. So even if this sliding ball carrier was sooner, we would not have targeted on this play because it's shoulder to shoulder. Another catch, no catch review. All right, so the ruling on the field is an incomplete pass. So we'll talk about mechanics of how to help sell this. And then had this play did go to review of an incomplete catch, of sort of how we can make it confirms as an incomplete catch. So Monty, I'll keep it at this angle because this is the best look at it. And what you would expect from the deep wing, and then I'll talk about sort of why this is confirmed an incomplete pass.
Yeah, so short wing does a nice job coming down the field hard. Just remember, officials, if you are 100% sure it's incomplete, just wipe it out. If you're not sure is when you should come together. Our line judge is coming down the field hard here. It looks like he wants to have communication with the field judge, and it cuts out a little quick, but field judge, if you see him coming in hard, that he wants to talk to you, you also want to come in with some urgency, have that conversation, and then, you can decide if you're going to go with a catch or with not a catch. Right there's the perfect view of that ball.
Yeah. All right.
So,
and as we go back, we have possession of the ball, we have body part down, but we have a falling receiver. So now we have to survive the ground. And as he hits the ground, we have the ball loose right there. And as he turns, he actually picks up the ball off the ground. All right, so this would be supported as confirmed incomplete pass. On this one, we talk about defensive hold versus defensive pass interference. When do we convert it? And Monty's going to talk about it is what the foul is. So as we play this, Monty, talk about it is what the foul is.
Yeah. So, I mean, often the D hold's going to convert to a DPI because they're going to be holding them and then the ball's going to be in the air and they're going to continue to hold them. So once the ball's in the air, that converts from a D hold to a DPI. And when we say make it what it is, what we're saying is let's say that it would be a D hold starting at 3 yards and the pass would be in the air at 8 yards and we still have the hold. It converts to DPI, and that would be an 8-yard DPI that would result in automatic first down. We even though the hold would be 10 yards, we go with what it is, which it converted, so we make it a DPI. So we don't go with whichever hurts them worse, as is said once in a while. We go with what the foul is, which it did start as a D hold, but it ended as a DPI. So we will make it a DPI. In this one, obviously, the DPI is going to be, better because this converts late enough that we're downfield 15 yards almost anyway.
All right, so officials, I know this philosophy changed a couple of years ago. So it's not what hurts the team the most. It is what it is. And if it starts defensive hold, turns into DPI, call it a DPI.
Yep. Even if that's a spot foul less than 10.
Yep. All right, so we have avoiding offensive pass interference here because it is the offensive receiver's responsibility to avoid that. And then we'll talk about a grab and restrict and how much more leeway we give receivers when it comes to catchable pass with a grab and restrict.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because we had this 2 weeks ago and got some clarity on this with another aspect. But these guys are extremely athletic. So if you take a step away, in this one he's grabbing them for several yards. So he's slowing that receiver down for several yards. So this ball is 100% catchable. But basically, if we have a D hold, it's going to be really, really hard for that ball to be deemed, uncatchable for DPI. And really, it doesn't matter if it's catchable if you go with the D hold anyway. So let's say that you would have this, and it would be on the sideline. So you'd have a D hold that you think converts to a DPI, but then that ball gets thrown all the way in the middle of the track. Well, you can't have DPI now because it is uncatchable, but you had a D hold to start with, so then you would have the D hold anyway. So, but they do get, you might have to you're not going to take off that DPI if you have the hold because that's what's restricting him from getting, making that ball catchable. So what happened a couple of weeks ago is we had a play similar to this, and the discussion was, well, what about intentional grounding because the receiver was not within 7 yards coming back to the ball, and he wasn't because of the D hold. So the conversation was, and what they ended up talking about was, we're not going to put intentional grounding on the offense if the defense held the receiver, because the reason why the receiver was not able to get within the 5 or 7 yards was because of the hold. So that's a very important thing for us as officials to understand. We don't want to offset a D hold with intentional grounding if it's for that receiver that was being held.
And then I just want to reiterate a very important thing. We just said it is what it is. D hold converted to a DPI. Had this quarterback thrown the ball away to conserve either time or yardage, and it started as a defensive hold, the only foul on the play is defensive hold. It never converted to a DPI. All right, we have an 8 here. 8s are great. We have a block in the back, and I'm going to go to the end zone view to view this. But we have a illegal block in the back that propels the opponent past the ball carrier. A very difficult play to see, and the line of scrimmage official got it when we needed it. So, Monty, take it from there.
Yeah, this is just a fantastic call, and he's looking where he needs to. So number 24 right there, because if you think about this, we've got that return man as a runner, and he is now being tackled. So our deep wing is responsible for that runner and the action around the runner. So he's not going to see this block. Our back judge is watching some chase mode blocks from the inside, and therefore there's no way he's going to see that block by 24. And it's exactly where the line judge should be looking, because that's the that's really the point of attack block in chase mode that he should be looking at. And even though he should be looking there, it's still a fantastic call because he's a long ways away, and he's the only one that can make it. So yeah, that's an 8.
All right, so I will say the call that's mostly incorrect is blocking the back, but this is two hands on the numbers propelling the player beyond the ball carrier. And yeah, it might only be a 1 or 2 yard advantage, but that's a 1-2 yard advantage. So great call by our line of scrimmage official there. All right, we have DPI or not defensive pass interference. And Monty, I guess talk about if you were the back judge or side deep wing here, of what type of communication you would expect and what would cause you to pick it up / keep it down.
Yeah, so really, if we're gonna go to official and tell him that we think we should pick it up, we want to go in and say, what did you have? And if he says, I had a grab and restrict before the ball got there, you're only going to tell him to pick it up if you are 100% convinced that there's no way that happened and you had a good angle. So that's when you're going to go to him and say, what did you have? He tells you, and you say, you want to be very blunt about it and say, I had a good angle there. That did not happen what you're describing. I think you should pick it up. It ends up coming down to the calling official if he wants to pick it up or not. And we talked about this before. Usually if you're that calling official and you have any doubt in your call at all, and someone else says pick it up, then pick it up. If you have no doubt, you can stick with it if you want, and that's fine. And then we'll see how it gets graded out. But this is one as a deep wing. I don't know if I would have been confident. I think I would have been thinking, oh, I don't know, that's pretty tight. Maybe I decided not to throw. But if I'm thinking that way, I'm not going to go tell him to pick it up because I'm not 100% confident that was not. But that's a decision you need to make as an official.
Yep. I will say this before we talk about the flag toss. Receivers like to catch a ball with two hands and not one hand, and only one hand is able to get up here. We got to be able to ask ourselves, why did that other hand not get up? And if it's because it was grabbed and restricted, we're going to have defensive pass interference here. So, Monty.
And they like to grab the wrist.
Yep.
I mean, I had one this weekend, and it was a wrist grab, and it was down by the end zone, and it was very obvious. He's grabbing the wrist the whole time, so the guy can't, he's restricting him. And that, looks like that's what we see on this. We don't have the greatest angle and the greatest camera work. But second thing is, the flag. When I saw the flag toss, I'm like, where is what is he throwing for? So what I mean is, we want the flag to be going towards where the foul is. He throws this flag back really straight downfield. Yeah, it should be going that way. And the flag goes more, parallel to the sideline. So just throw it in the direction. That way everybody knows, what you're going with for your foul.
All right. The last clip of this training tape, we do have 12 players on the field here for illegal substitution. I will say there was a big play in the Oregon versus Ohio State game where a substitution was done on purpose to have time come off the clock. So officials, we're just going to have a quick talk about illegal substitution rules. If you have 12 and the offense calls timeout because it confuses them, all right, they are allowed to be given that timeout back, and you would just enforce that 5-yard penalty for illegal substitution. We do not have this here. The offense is not confused. This is just a normal illegal substitution. But I know the play that happened in the Oregon-Ohio State game has gotten a lot of talk in the player community, coaches community, officials community. Coaches, if you think the opposing team has 12 on the field on purpose, call a timeout. The officials will enforce the 5-yard penalty, illegal substitution. You get that timeout back. So, Monty, what do you think will come out of that play when it comes to the illegal substitution process to gain an advantage with timing?
Yeah. So, I mean, initially, that rule that you're talking about, Sean, was put in a couple years ago because of, hey, they got 12 on defense. We don't know what we're supposed to do as an offense. So we call a timeout. And they're like, well, that's not fair. The offense had to call a timeout. So, yeah, they made the rule that we're going to enforce the 5 yards and you're going to get your timeout back. So now with what happened, this was the second last play of the game. So, yeah, they did it on purpose. It kind of came out today, and the NCAA is talking about making an in-season rules interpretation to kind of close this loophole. And but yeah, they had 12 on defense, and they were more interested in taking time off the clock. So a few years ago, there was another issue that kind of the same thing happened, and what they did is they made the rule where, okay, we're going to enforce this penalty, but we're going to put the time back on the clock. And I don't know for sure that's going to what they're going to come up with, but I'm sure Sean's going to let you all know, players and coaches and officials, if they make an action, make a ruling, a change to this rule, what it's going to be. But yeah, what you need to do as an offense is realize that if they've got 12 and you're confused and you call timeout because of it, you'll get that timeout back and that penalty will be enforced.
All right. That does conclude our training tape number 8 for the Great Plains Athletic Conference. Monty, once again, thank you for your time, your wisdom, and your guidance on these plays. Look forward to chatting with you again next week for training tape number 9. Officials, remember, you're only as good as your last call.